is back. And what does that mean for the field? Well, this is the 6-time fittest woman on earth, and she is the 3-time Rogue Invitational defending champion in the past. But Laura Horvath is here, and she was the champ this year at the CrossFit Games, and she was the champ last year at the Rogue Invitational, and she did not come to take the back seat to Claire Toomey.
And on the men's side, all eyes will be on this matchup. Jeffrey Adler, the fittest man on earth, taking on Roman Krennikov.
That's right. Jeff Adler has built some tremendous momentum coming off of that victory at the CrossFit Games, and he's finished twice on the podium here in 3rd place. This year he's hungry to get to the top, but there's a man, Roman Krennikov, that is going to be standing in his way. Finishing 3rd at this year's CrossFit Games, a lot of people contend, Sean, that he was only 3rd because he broke his foot with 2 events to go. Will this be the place that he gets to stand on top of the podium?
Weather permitting, this is our schedule currently. Now, we will be updating you as we go if things change. The weather has already thrown a wrench into our planning day and rehearsal day as we get things kicked off at the 2023 Rogue Invitational. Now, contingency plans are in place in case weather continues to be a factor. And for more on that, Kiki Dixon is with Katie Henniger.
Katie, it's not raining right now, but that hasn't been the case the last few days. How is Rogue prepared for this?
Well, what weather right now, right? It's beautiful with the sun out, but in all seriousness, we really have been here all week dealing with the weather, going through contingencies for the whole weekend, and what I can guarantee is it's going to be safe for the athletes, and then at the end of the weekend, we're going to have the podium for this event.
Now, event number 1, about ready to start. What contingency are we on? A, B, C, Z?
Throughout the day, we went through A to Z, and we ended up back with A, so we're on our first one.
We're looking forward to it. Thanks, Katie.
Thank you.
Event number 1 for the women, Texas Heavy, going to go off hopefully without a hitch here as we are back to Plan A. And Adrian, when we heard about Texas Heavy presented by GoRuck, the description we got before we got the description was, I don't think anyone's done this before, and then you see what is in store here and you say, oh yeah, that's why.
That's right. It's because the community has been familiar with rucking, but maybe not this heavy. In Event 1, Texas Heavy, they're going to go for a 1-mile ruck with 80 pounds on their body. Then they're going to shed some of the weight after the 1 mile. And for a half a mile, 800 meters, they're going to complete a 30-pound ruck. Then after that, they are going to run 1 mile with no weight, but they're not quite finished. Across the finish line, they are going to have to drag a sled bag that is 100 pounds.
And the loop that they will be running takes us out of Della Diamond, around the back there, through the parking lot, and then through Vendor Village there that you can see that is just outside the stadium. They will be running through Vendor Village in the 1-mile portions of this event, and they will be bypassing that on the 800-meter portion of the event. Now, the athletes just heard about this, and there are 20 of them in the field, and all 20 women will be on the field at the same time. They will go before the men go. We have 15 women who are invited, and then we have another 5 women who qualified through the online queue. And there is Tia Toomey on the right side of your screen, back in action for the first time since winning the CrossFit Games in 2022. We'll be keeping an eye on Emily Rolfe in this event. This is her first appearance at the Rogue Invitational since 2021, and she won the Ruck event at the CrossFit Games in 2019. Gabby Magawa, another athlete to watch, 5th place at the Rogue Invitational in 2022. Also won the Capital at the CrossFit Games that year. And then Danielle Brandon looking to be a factor in this opening event as well.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think this field is full of tremendous runners, but Danielle Brandon took first place on an event that was very similar to this one last year, being that it was a loaded run. The biggest question mark to me, Sean, is that 80 pounds that they're going to have to use for the first mile too much for Danielle to be able to express her high running capacity later in the event?
And Danielle Brandon and the rest of the competitors were on hand yesterday to get the full announcement of what event number 1 was, and Kiki Dixon talked to some of the athletes after they found out what was in store for them here on Thursday night.
Guys, the athletes were surprised. No one had this on their 2023 Rogue Invitational bingo card. Pat Vellner said he's interested to see which athletes are going to be able to run with this weight, if at all. He figures he might as well put his coach on his back, Michelle Latondra, and get the job done. I agree with Michelle that would be an interesting way indeed. Ariel Lowen is looking forward to this event. Her reaction was, it is going to be awesome. She would love to bring this event home with a W for Texas.
And event number 1, Texas Heavy, presented by GoRuck, is underway. 80 total pounds, 36 kilos that the women are carrying on this initial 1 mile run. They'll work their way out of the stadium. They'll make a left turn. They'll go through the parking lot and then around and through Vendor Village, back into the stadium, and then they will shed the bag, and then they will run 800 meters, then they will shed the ruck, and then it's a final 1 mile run unweighted. We're joined in the booth by the CEO of GoRuck, Jason McCarthy. Now, this is unique for CrossFit. I don't think anybody's ever done a ruck this heavy, but this is nothing new to the GoRuck community. Bring Jason here in just a second, having some technical difficulties with his mic, but there you can see out front early on, looks like Emily Rolfe is on there on the left. Let's bring Jason McCarthy from GoRuck back in, and as I was saying, new to CrossFit, not new to the GoRuck community.
This is exactly our kind of
Still working on Jason's mic. We'll bring him in here in a second. And while we do that, Adrian, what are the keys to this event?
Yeah, I think that one of the first keys that you've got to consider, Sean, is that athletes need to trust their prep. You've got to understand that with this load and with this exposure, building intensity as we go, it's important for athletes to meet themselves where they're at. If they haven't been putting in the running volume, it would be a tremendous mistake for them to assume they're going to show up for this particular event and do something miraculous. They got to stay in their own pace. And then number two is that they've got to start slow and finish fast. Even for the best of runners here within the field, they've got to make sure that they come out at a pace that doesn't build unnecessary fatigue early so that they have an opportunity to thrive later in the event.
Tia Toomey is out front ahead of Emily Rolfe. Laura Horvath is there, and then on the left side of the screen, that's Danielle Brandon on this first 1 mile run. And one of the big questions coming into this was, how fast were they going to go on this opening 1 mile?
Yeah, it's a great question, and we had some speculation, right? There were people that were like, hey, I think they're going to take off and run, and there will be some people that want to be more aggressive than others. But one thing's for certain, there's a quality technique that we're looking for underlying the success of athletes in an event like this. You're going to see that people or athletes with success are going to have a big, broad chest, but they're also going to be hinged forward a bit at the hip. So they want to be able to consume as much oxygen as they can throughout the movement. They're also going to be careful not to strike the ground with a completely straight leg. They want to make sure that they keep the leg soft so that they can absorb it from the hip down and not just in the smaller bone structures and musculatures of the foot and the quads. And then, of course, they've got to be able to stay the pace that is appropriate for them. I think right now that we're seeing a little bit of jockeying for appropriate position. Who wants to chase who? As you see that we're kind of starting to break off into some smaller packs as the race unfolds here.
That looks like it is Laurel Horvath out front ahead of Tia Toomey. Or that might be, I think that's Horvath. Horvath ahead of Toomey right now. And then Emily Rolfe is currently in third place.
Yeah, I agree with what I think you're seeing. Yeah, that's a Laura Horvath there leading the way. Tia Toomey there in second. And
Horvath coming in as the defending Invitational champion, also the fittest woman on earth. Tia Toomey taking a swig of water behind her.
yeah, Sean, and even as we look at the way that Laura's setting the pace, this is a bit foreign when you consider a running event. She's not typically going to be the person that we see jump to the front, but with the external load that is put on these athletes in the form of the ruck, I think it creates an advantage to the bigger, stronger athletes and has given her some confidence in her ability to lead the front of the pack even early in a 2.5 mile run that the athletes are being put up to in this event.
Horvath and Toomey, first two into Vendor Village. As we are past the 5-minute mark here. Once they work their way back to the start, they'll ditch that bag.
So impressive.
And then
And
they will run the 800 meters with just the ruck
I
pack
think
on.
this event sets the tone in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah, one thing to consider too is just the arm position that these athletes are put into.
everyone
As they
here
have that sandbag draped
who's not in
over
position
both
1 or 2
shoulders. You're
is
not really
watching
able to
who
create a
gave birth
significant
about
amount
6
of arm
months ago,
swing.
beat them
Right?
right
Not to
out
mention
of
the
the
load,
gates.
but your arms are
That's a
almost
mind game
in a
whether you
fixed
want it to
position
be or
there,
not.
especially if you don't let
Very
one arm
true.
down from one side to the other to
I
kind of
actually
give yourself some relief.
2021, they had a ruck event at
A lot of
West Coast
times it's going
Classic.
to almost
did the
shunt
ruck
blood
there. It
flow
was
to the upper
increasing
body
weight
and start to lose some
class.
sensation within your grip and shoulder
increasing.
position. So
And,
it'll be interesting to see if different techniques start to come into play as we get deeper, closer towards that 10-minute mark of this run.
Field really starting to spread out here. This 80-pound total run here. 50 pounds in that horn sack and then 30 pounds in the ruck.
This is where we start to see a lot of gamifying too with the athletes, where there might be someone that doesn't consider themselves the fastest runner, but is going to be able to stay in striking distance of a position that they feel like would earn them solid points. And what I mean by that is everyone starts to understand the war of attrition in a competition like this, where volume adds up over time. Each stride is going to accumulate fatigue, and they know that they still have an onslaught of events waiting for them over the next 3 days. At a certain point, athletes have to weigh and measure where the juice is worth the squeeze for their efforts and for the undue fatigue that will start to accumulate throughout the course of a weekend. So I think we'll start to see that as this event plays out as well, is who's just holding on for some damage control and who's going for the gusto to try to swindle 100 points here right out of the gate.
Third try is the charm here. Jason McCarthy, the CEO of GoRuck, joining us. Jason, sorry about the technical difficulties. Thanks for hanging through that. What have you seen so far in this event that you either like, don't like, or tells you that someone is being successful at this track?
I mean, I just got a big smile on my face. This is our kind of fun, and it's great to see Tia back. And you know, it's just they're just whooping it on, and you see the leaders are moving at a pretty consistent pace. That's the goal with this. They're not running per se because they're not going fast enough to really qualify it as running. It's more of just a shuffle and a consistent pace, that's exactly what you want to do. You know, you pick up 100 pounds, you put it on your back. That's no big deal, especially for athletes like this. Now you're in a foot race. Competition breeds excellence. All the butterflies are going. It's really fantastic to see this go down like this.
Horvath and Toomey, the first two in. Gabby McGowa right behind them. They are just about done with this opening 1 mile run. After this, it's put down that 50-pound corn sack and then run 800 meters with the 30-pound ruck.
And so what happens when you do that is you're taking all this weight off of your back, right? And that is like taking your ski boots off after a whole day on the slopes, right? It feels amazing. The problem is your legs and your lower body is super swollen from what you've done here, which is try to go really fast with a lot of weight on your back, but then you're expected to go even faster. And so they'll all recognize what a 30-pound ruck run is, what I would call it, up next will be for their bodies, but their legs have they've got that fun in them from this first mile, and that's part of it, which is fantastic to see.
Horvath and Toomey just about at the same time. 1 and 2 here. And now the 800 meters with 30 pounds. Gabby McGowa is in third.
And now the faster you start going like this, there's little tips and tricks that you learn over time, such as you want that rucksack cinched down as high and tight as possible. I see a little bit of movement in Laura's rucksack, a little bit more than maybe Tia's. You know, that's just a technique that you learn over time, because the more that it's bouncing around at all, you know, it's just kind of annoying. So the more that you really make it a part of your back, which is how they're designed, the more comfortable the ride is, so to say. But they just look like they're just having a great time, you know?
There's Danielle Brandon, who won the opening event of the Rogue Invitational last year in the Texas Trail, working her way out on her 800-meter run. Behind her, Lauren Fisher.
And we start to see some changes to the running technique and body position overall, Jason, as we see them shed the weight. It seems like we're watching them become more upright. Of course, they have more freedom in their upper body. Is this something that you expect, as well as that elongation in their stride?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the breathing thing is what takes time to get used to. I mean, you'll see a lot of people, they think you have to have all these sternum straps and hip belts and all this stuff, and all of those come at a cost. And when you see someone's shoulders back, if you can breathe correctly, then you own that pose, you own that position. And it's no different with rucking. If your shoulders are kind of back and your spine is basically straight up and you're running like you would expect a runner to look, then what's happening is you're just able to breathe better, and that's exactly what you want. So when you start cheating, when the weight gets too heavy for how fast you want to go, you start kind of hunching forward. You hunch forward and you hunch forward because it's allowing you to kind of transfer that load a little bit differently, and differently is good when you get too fatigued in one position. And so you take that off and it gets a lot easier to kind of maintain a proper form in this case, which is a little bit more upright and helps you breathe a little bit better. And in theory, it makes you go a lot faster.
Tia Toomey is now in front. Gabby McGowan sits in second with Laura Horvath in third here.
Yeah, and it's interesting what we're watching towards the front. Even as we watch the difference in the frequency of their strides hitting the ground, Tia seems to have a faster strike or revolution of her feet per second, right? Like she's making ground contact a little bit quicker than both Gabby and especially Laura. As what we're seeing now is it seems like Laura might be fading a little bit away from Gabby and Tia, as she's still taking those elongated strides, might be a hair early, still weighted, not completely free from the external loading. And this is what I tend to feel when I do this myself, is that my legs feel heavy when I take those long strides. I build up a lot of fatigue.
Yeah, I mean, really heavy. This is not where they're starting. Remember, they have an 80-pound 1 mile ruck behind them. That's in their legs already, and that takes a toll. And so that takes a big toll.
Yeah, many people will be familiar with the name Chris Hinshaw in our spaces. He is the aerobic capacity instructor and teaches that course. I leaned on him for many years as a coach, and one of the things that he echoed to myself and other athletes was, you've got to be able to control your stride frequency. Once you're out of control there, you lose control of your breathing, and then it just becomes an exponential downgrade for your performance as you continue to go.
Tia Toomey and Gabby McGowan are about to lap Shelby Neal, who is still on her opening 1 mile run here. Neal got to the Rogue Invitational when Annie Thorisdottir, congratulations to her and Frederica Gideus, announced that she was pregnant. She wouldn't be competing. Shelby Neal in, but now getting lapped by Tia Toomey and Gabby McGowan. And Laura Horvath is in third. Last time we saw her, and Emily Rolfe was gaining ground on Horvath for a spot in the top three in this first of 9 events that these athletes will face here at the Rogue Invitational. And Tia Toomey is going to be the first woman to complete her 800-meter run, and now it's 1 mile with nothing on her whatsoever. And she looks to make a quick transition here, and she does just that, makes the left turn, and now back on the 1 mile course. And Tia Toomey looking to open up more of a lead here on Gabby McGowan, as now Laura Horvath has fallen way off the lead pace. You can see her and Emily Rolfe at about the same time in the background, now ditching their ruck packs.
That's right. Now we're really going to get to see who has picked the appropriate pace to start this event with, right? It seems as though Laura probably overshot her coverage in a particular way when it comes to pacing. She wanted to lead the pack. She wanted to set the tone, and it looks like it could have bitten her a bit. Now, there's still some time left for her to make up some ground, but it's going to get exponentially harder to close ground on a leader like Tia Claire Toomey, who has paced it just right. She looks smooth. She looks composed. I think that we're actually going to watch her build speed here through the next 400 meters and settle into a pretty fast mile pace in order to dictate how far she is from Gabby.
Tia Toomey and Gabby McGowan, top two by a long way here. Just in the background now, you can see Laura Horvath and Emily Rolfe rounding the corner. Approaching the 15-minute mark here. Tia Toomey has won the Rogue Invitational every year she has competed. Did not compete last year. Laura Horvath won that competition, but first in 2019, first in 2020, first in 2021, and looking to win the first event in 2023.
Approximately 6 months postpartum, Sean. The recovery, the ability to come back, rebuild your body into a shape that will be unfamiliar to her because it's new now. It's something different, but the 6-time fittest woman on earth, and of course the 3-time defending Rogue Invitational champ, shows that she is not here to do anything except walk away with the crown one more time.
Toomey and Magawa way out in front. Once Tia and Gabby get back into the stadium, they will have to finish up this event with a 100-pound pull to the finish line. They have a bag they have to pull across the finish, and shouldn't be a problem for either one of these athletes, but Gabby Magawa is really running out of time to gain any ground on Tia. In fact, Tia looks like she's widening that lead here on this final trek around this 1-mile track.
Yeah, and I think that was something that's kind of apparent. And Jason, I'll ask you about this, is even when you talked about shedding the weight as you go. So they come down, they get down to that ruck, and now as they strip down even to the body weight, we saw this. Tia didn't necessarily just start off a dead sprint when she shed the weight. She almost like built speed as she built into that 1 mile.
I mean, it's just like taking ski boots off. You're not ready to just do everything as if you didn't wear them recently. And so, you know, the blood flow starts to come back, and you know, you remember what it feels like to take these deeper breaths, and it changes your gait, it changes just the way that you're performing, and so you got to get a little bit used to your new state, and she's obviously doing that.
Yeah, there's a lot of experience that comes with having that type of self-awareness, because a lot of athletes, without having the ability to experience and put down the miles with weighted running, particularly in the form of a ruck, a heavy ruck, they're going to be blind to the sensation and assume that they won't have those Bambi legs coming off of that load, and they might be able to just, you know, pace a little slower early or start really slow and reserved and then just have this radical change of speed. But I think a lot of the athletes here, even on event 1 that we're witnessing, probably reserved a little too much even in the tank and found themselves out of the opportunity to even be in a top 5 or top 10 finish, simply because they thought they would be able to close the gap or make moves once they got to the lighter runs or the unweighted one.
Laura Horvath, bottom right side of your screen, has just now gotten to Vendor Village, and I believe that is Emily Rolfe behind her. Or maybe Emily Rolfe is in front of her. You have to check on that. But it's Tia Toomey, it's Gabby Magawa, and it's nobody really challenging them at this point. Laura Horvath currently sits in 3rd place, so she's been able to gain a little bit more of a lead on Emily Rolfe, as the two of them were neck and neck to start this final 1 mile run. There is Tia Toomey, who is in the final stages of this 1 mile run, and then it's the bag drag across the finish.
And look at her run. You would never guess by watching Tia's stride, watching Tia's body language, that she just carried the weight she carried him for the distance that she had to carry it. So it is one of those things where it pays to be a winner. It pays to have the understanding and the self-awareness on how to pace appropriately versus the field in order to get yourself some great momentum to start a wonderful event like she's doing here in event 1.
Well, earlier we were talking via text with Chris Hinshaw, wondering what the first mile would take some of these women, and it was a couple minutes off of what we're at now. I mean, we way underestimated the capacity of these women to move this load this fast.
Yeah, they started fast and started aggressive. Specifically, the top 5, top 6 were all kind of in a pack for quite a while, and then of course we started to see some separation, and now Tia's on a stroll in Round Rock, Texas, out by herself as the sun goes down.
Out for an easy evening jog, and then it's the bag drag across the finish line for your 3-time Rogue Invitational champion, Tia Toomey, who is absolutely torching this opening event. Gabby Magawa now making the final turn to those bags you can see laid out on the field that they will have to drag across the finish line. And there goes Tia Toomey on her final portion of this event
And can you imagine the feeling? The champ just having this feeling come back to return the questions.
And Magawa's on the bag now, but she's not going to be able to catch Tia Toomey. And it's like she never left. Opening event win for Tia Toomey here at the 2023 Rogue Invitational. Gabby Magawa will take second. Great start for her, coming off that 5th place finish here at the Invitational in 2022. And now we'll see if Laura Horvath can hang on to 3rd. Horvath is on the bag to make that Emily Rolfe. So Emily Rolfe is now on the bag. So Rolfe looking to finish 3rd.
Great shirt selection for this.
Ruck fast.
Emily Rolfe, a 3rd place finish to kick things off. And now Laura Horvath will be the next woman across the finish line. It's like Emma Lawson is in. And Bethany Flores is now across.
Way to be an inspiration. You're so amazing.
Danielle Brandon trying to hold off Lauren Fisher here. It's like Brandon's going to accomplish that. So Danielle Brandon is now in, and Fisher will be next. We approach the 22-minute mark here of the opening event, the first of 9 events that the individuals will face here at the 2023 Rogue Invitational.
These women crushed it. They all put up some impressive times, especially with where we were expecting them to be.
That's Manon Enganez, making her 2nd Rogue Invitational appearance. She finished 11th here in 2022.
Sean, and this all really brings up a topic that is very interesting with the time and season that we find ourselves in. Athletes coming away from the CrossFit Games, some of them not as peaked conditioning-wise as they might feel like they need to be for an event such as this one. But I know that's something that Manon has been working on with her coach and trying to grow her capacity. And so I'll be interested to see what they feel about her performance.
Manon being congratulated by Tia Toomey, who starts off with an event win here. That is Paige Semenza coming across ahead of Elena Karatala Sanahuya. So Semenza is done. There's Alex Gazan. Gazan making her first appearance here at the Rogue Invitational, coming off that 5th place finish at the CrossFit Games earlier this year. We still have more women who are wrapping up that 1-mile run. Christine Kohlenbrander on the right side. There's Danny Spiegel on the left.
Yeah, we talked briefly about the war of attrition here that takes place over the course of 4 days or so, and it's one of those things where when you understand that this is the position that you're going to be in, it's not going to be a top 10 finish. How fast do you go to finish the event? How much of your pride do you lay on the line, and how much do you think about self-preservation to allow yourself more energy or a higher ability to recover?
There is Emma Carey. She is in. Jason McCarthy, the CEO of Go Ruck, is joining us here in the booth. Been hearing from him throughout this event. What has impressed you about what you've seen here so far with the women?
I mean, first off, Tia is very impressive. And it's not just I'm used to this world where I come from where competition breeds excellence, and everything you do is about living that life. And, so she dominates the event, right? Like a total pro, slow and steady with the 80 pounds, and then she just gradually picks it up. She just sets the pace, never panics, doesn't even look back over her shoulders. She's just always looking ahead. And then she gets done and she grabs a bottle of water and she high-fives everybody else that comes in. It's like, hey, I'm back. You know it. Now you really know it. It's really impressive, just everything, in every way.
Saw Karin Freyova finish up. There goes Paige Powers, who started off her 2023 with a win at Wadapalooza and then had a really great showing at the CrossFit Games, finishing 10th overall. This 100-pound bag should not be a problem for her.
But overall, it's just really impressive to see the entire field embrace this and carry a lot of heavy weight, long distances, competition breeding excellence, of course, and just give it their all. I mean, it's something new, great, right? That's what this is all about.
And now Paige Powers is in.
Yeah, Jason, and I think that's the beauty of athletes that are fortunate enough to find themselves here at the Rogue Invitational. Is it's a chance to touch implements that you've never touched before, be tested in a way that you've never been tested before, and also, oh, by the way, you're against the fittest athletes in the world here on the biggest stage that exists. So I love that you brought that up, because I think this competition specifically breeds a ton of excellence, and you know, it's an experience that a lot of these athletes have been waiting for a long time.
Christine Kohlenbrander is going to work her way across the finish line. Tia Toomey is your event winner. It's her 11th career event win at the Rogue Invitational. And now Kohlenbrander is across.
Christine definitely going to be an athlete that we'll have to keep our eye on throughout the course of the weekend. Definitely one of the stronger, one of the most explosive that are out there in the field.
And now Danny Spiegel is across. There are still 2 bags out on the field. Danny Spiegel, one of the athletes who qualified through the queue, making her 3rd appearance at the Rogue Invitational. Her best finish was 8th in 2019, and then took 12th last year. Here comes Shelby Neal.
Shelby Neal, the athlete that got the nod to come play with the women because of Annie's withdrawal.
Making her first appearance here at the Rogue Invitational. 19th in the CrossFit Games in her rookie year. That's Kyra Milligan, who will be the next woman to that 100-pound bag.
Kyra here gaining invaluable experience as an individual competitor. She got to be at the CrossFit Games on a team last year with Mayhem, but having that opportunity to rub shoulders and go toe-to-toe with the fittest women in the world, and of course, the fittest woman in history out there in this lineup, it's really going to be a great opportunity for her to see where she's at in her athletic journey. What are the things she needs to continue to work on, the holes she needs to fill in, but just really learn the value and experience of head-to-head competition, which is hard to simulate, and there's no better place to do that here than here.
Had a great showing on the Mayhem Independence team at the CrossFit Games, finished 7th with that squad back in August. Milligan lugging that bag across the finish to close things out, and that will leave Shelby Neal as the only woman left on the course here. As once again it was Tia Toomey who picks up her 11th career event win here at the Rogue Invitational. There is Shelby Neal working her way back inside the stadium. Neal making the descent down that ramp into the outfield here at Dell Diamond Stadium in Round Rock, Texas.
And this is the same kind of thing for Shelby Neal, you know, an opportunity to learn, an opportunity to take in this blessing of being on the competition floor. Certainly not something she expected for more than just a couple weeks ago as she got the opportunity to prepare for this. It probably wasn't within the same mindset that a lot of these women taking the field had the chance to do. But being a rookie at the CrossFit Games, these are invaluable lessons she's about to take in over the next 4 days. And regardless of the outcome for her, she's going to be able to build personal momentum on what she needs to work on, where she needs to be, the things she can do to grow.
Former gymnast who started CrossFit at 14 years old, also a previous Team USA youth lifter. And now she'll have to lift that bag, or at least drag it across the finish line. To close things out here for the women in their opening event, Texas Heavy, presented by GoRuck, here at the 2023 Rogue Invitational.
I'm just going to go ahead and assume that the wetness of the field adds a little bit of friction, just a little bit.
And Neal is in, and that will do it for the women. And Tia Toomey over to congratulate Shelby Neal, and it's Tia Toomey who picks up the event win at 100 points as she looks to reclaim her title here at the Rogue Invitational.
That's right, and she pretty much put on a clinic with this performance, Sean. She came out and she set the tone very, very early. All right, man, and out the gate, let me tell you, this really makes me smile when I can refer back to our keys, and it was a success for Tia. She started at the pace that she needed to start at. It was slightly just behind Laura, but as you see her make that move, she never looked back once she passed Laura Horvath there. And she not only didn't look back, but she actually continued to create greater separation between herself and then Gabby Magawa, who would come in at second place. But just a shot of the champ there, stride for stride, looking relaxed, looking composed, and she did exactly what she needed to do in that event to capitalize and build momentum, set herself up, not just literally on the point side, but also emotionally and physically for success for the week to come.
Tia Toomey opens things up with a win here, and she is with Kiki Dixon.
Tia, this is your first competition, your first event back